Okay, hello friends. In this lesson we're going to be doing compare and ordering fractions in the Smart Notebook with it. This falls under your TEAC 4.3D, which is compare two fractions with different numerators and different denominators, and in all sorts of different ways of doing that. So one of the ways that we're going to compare fractions, so let's just get into the Smart Notebook and we're going to see how to do this. Full screen. When you compare fractions, you can tell whether a fraction is greater than, less than, or equal to. We use these symbols in our class before, but I like to tell my students put 2 dots by the bigger one because you read it greater than, and 1 dot by the smaller one and connect the dots, the numbers. And that's one way to not get your symbols confused, because this is less than and equal to. You can compare these two fractions, drag the correct symbol between the two fractions. So we're going to look at these two, and it's kind of hard to see how they're shaded in, but they're both the same circle, and one is put into 3 equal parts, and one is put into 8 equal parts. And the shaded in each one of them is 1 piece out of the 3 here, and 1 piece out of 8. Now, to see which is bigger, if you can't see what's shaded in, think about it like a pie. Would you rather have 1/3 of the pie or 1/8 of the pie? Which is going to give you that bigger piece? If you said 1/3, you're right. So then we'll put that greater than symbol in between there. And let's check that. Yes. Comparing using your eyes. Sometimes you can compare using your eyes. Let me read what you'd need to do to be able to do this. In order for this method to work, you need to be sure of a few things. The two fractions need to be lined up on top of each other, okay? And the pictures need to be kind of on top of each other so you can look at them. The fractions must be in the same shape. In other words, the whole must represent the same thing, okay? So do you see how this is the same as this piece? They're exactly the same, except one is cut into 2 equal parts, which is 1/2, and one is cut into 3 equal parts, which is 2/3. And then the fractions need to be the same size in which it says. Now, if I pull away from here, I'm not sure if you can see it very well, but if you look with your eyes, you can tell that 2 pieces is bigger than the 1. So then 2/3, 2 dots by the bigger one, 1 dot by half, is greater than 1/2. Okay. When you're comparing, there's 3 different things that we're going to be talking about and you can look at. First, you can look at the denominator, make sure that they're the same. If the denominators are the same, then all you have to do is look at the numerator, and the bigger the numerator, the bigger the fraction. 2, look and see if there is a picture. Maybe you can line them up, maybe they're exact same pictures, and so the exact same whole, but cut into different parts, but then maybe you can tell. But third, when the fractions, when the denominators are not the same and they're really too close to tell, then what we do is we find equivalent fractions, and we find equivalent fractions till we get a denominator that's the same, and that's what we're going to show you. So compare fractions by finding equivalent fractions. Remember the numerator and denominator by the same number. First, you have to remember how to find equivalent fractions. So we worked on this already. So I have the fraction 1/2. If I want a fraction that's equivalent to it, multiply, divide. Multiply, divide by the same number, top and bottom. This is how we do it. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2/4 is the same as 1/2. And I would keep doing this until I got a denominator that was equivalent. So you find some equivalent fractions for 3/5 and for 1/4. Pause the video and then I'll show you some that I have. Now, as I wrote mine, I wanted you to tell you I went and I did by 2 and by 3. I multiplied the numerator and denominators by 2 and by 3, so I started out easy. So we kind of reviewed now how to find fractions that are equivalent. So I got 1/4 is equal to 2 2/8 and 3 12ths. Now yours may be different if you multiplied them or you divided them by different numbers, and that's okay. So now, whoops, I think I missed one. Yes, we are missing a page in here. Here it is. Let's try. We're going to remember to multiply the numerator and denominator by the same number. So in this case, we're going to multiply compare 2/3 and 5/12. And I'm going to write them here so maybe we could see them together. You write the fractions on top of each other. Notice some things. I can't make a picture, and I don't want to make a picture with 12 equal parts. That would be a little bit hard for me. And then 1 into 2, 3 equal parts and have the same picture. I'm not very good at drawing pictures where they would show exactly. So my other option is look at my denominators. They're not the same. So when they're not the same, I'm going to have to get a denominator that are the same. Remember that the denominator is a name, okay? So it's kind of like I can't add together an orange and apple, but I can make them both fruit, and I can add fruit together. Well, 1/3 and 12ths, I can't really add them or do anything or compare them together, but I can make them into something. I can find something common that they both have. So what I like to do is put them on top of each other, draw that line. Let's take this denominator as the number 3 is smaller than 12. So I'm going to multiply it and see if I can get it to 12. And if I pass 12, I'll do one for the bottom one. I'll find an equivalent fraction. So let's multiply 2/3 by 2, and we get 4/6. And now I know 4/6 is the same as 2/3. Let's multiply by 3, and we get 6/9. 6/9 is the same as 2/3. All of these fractions in the line are equivalent. So times 4, and we're still smaller than 12, so I'm going to keep going, and we get 8/12. Now look at what we did. This one worked out so nice because 8/12 is the same as 2/3, and I'm comparing it to 5/12. So now that my denominator is the same, I can compare these two fractions, and I know that if the denominator is the same, the larger the numerator, the larger the fraction. So 8/12 is bigger than 5/12, and 8/12 is the same as 2/3. So right here I put 2 dots by 2/3 and 1 dot by 1 5/12, and that would show. A few more tips. When the numerators are the same, the fraction with the smallest denominator is the larger fraction. So when the numerators are the same and you're talking about the number of pieces, remember I told my class, and we've talked about it with fractions, the bigger the denominator, the smaller the pieces are going to be. If I had a pie and I only cut it twice, the pieces are going to be big. But if I cut it 6 times, the pieces are going to continually get smaller. And the more times I cut that same pie, the pieces are going to get smaller. So the bigger the denominator, the smaller the pieces. So 2/4 has half, but 2 is still fifths. But if I cut a pie into 5 pieces, or I cut a pie into 4 pieces, 5 pieces are going to be smaller pieces, and 2 of those pieces are going to be smaller. So then therefore, 2/4 is bigger than 2/5. When the denominators are the same, the fractions with the smaller numerator is the smallest. Now, so here the whole's been divided into the same part, and we're used to looking at it this way. So if they're divided into the same part, if I have 5 pieces out of 6 of the pie, or I have 2 pieces out of a pie that's in 6 equal parts, obviously the 5 is bigger. And so that's how when the denominator is the same, we just look at the numerator, and the bigger the numerator, the bigger the fraction. And that is it for that Smart Notebook lesson. I'm sorry it is so hard to see, but go back and listen to the words that I'm saying when I talk about it, and you can pause at any time.